Guys, so today I want to talk about a couple of things, piggybacking off or picking up from where we left off on the previous video. Today let's talk about liability coverage on your insurance. That's one thing. Liability coverage is going to cover you, we're talking about injury liability here, for if you're deemed at fault for an accident and other people are injured, alright? And that's going to cover passengers in your car if you're at fault, as well as drivers and passengers in other vehicles or pedestrians, whatever the case may be. So whatever your coverage limit is that you're purchasing there, that is, if it says, let's say your policy says 100,000, 300,000, that's, the lower number is per person, per accident, and then the higher number is total coverage, alright? So it doesn't matter how many people are injured, the bigger number is the maximum that you're going to be covered for. The lower number is the maximum that would be paid out for an individual per person basis. And it is not, you're not covering yourself. I want to be clear about that. You're not buying coverage for your bodily injury. You're buying coverage for other people that get injured to protect you. So set that level accordingly. I would suggest that you carry at least 100,000. We settle cases routinely that I would say it's rare in most cases that we go over 100,000. Okay, it's happened a couple times. Not impossible, it's just that most of those accidents aren't that severe. So if you have at least 100,000 in coverage there, you're in a pretty good spot. These days, though, I would consider carrying more like 250 and above, because some of that liability for medical expenses or work loss has increased. Some of that exposure has increased, so I would consider maybe carrying, again, the 250,000. Uninsured motorist coverage and underinsured motorist coverage, those are two ways that you protect yourself. And so what those are is, that's a coverage category where if you're injured in an accident that involves someone who's not carrying insurance, and or they drive off and you never find out who they were, okay? And if you have like a bodily injury claim to compensate yourself where you would normally pursue that against someone else, well, in this case, the insurance company that you have coverage through stands in that person's place because they didn't have coverage or they drove off. Now, it's also possible that you could have underinsured situation where the person that strikes you and hurts you has minimum coverage, but you have a bodily injury claim that's worth, let's say, $100,000 or thereabouts, and they only have coverage for 50. Well, if you have coverage for 100, you get to tap that extra 50 on top of getting the 50 from them. Okay, so that's what underinsured coverage is. So now you can kind of understand those categories when you're buying something. And also I want to talk a little bit here about the to-dos and not to-dos, so you don't get your coverage canceled. Okay. What happens is you have to keep your policy information up to date, of course, right? We're talking about here, like, where do you live? Who are the people that live with you? How many of them, and who are they? Who has access to get to drive the car? Who owns the car? And then not only that, but what kind of usage it's for, of course, and how often you use the car. So basic things like that. So also where the car spends most of its time, the garaging address, if you will. If you lie about these things, they're going to be considered material misrepresentations. So you could have, they won't find out about it most likely until after an accident when they review the file, but then they will almost certainly discover problems then. They're going to see inconsistencies, they're going to say, that's weird, look into it, and they may uncover the problem. And once they've proven that that information was not accurate, they can cancel coverage, and it'll be like you never had auto insurance valid in place. Okay, it'll be a retroactive cancellation. They'll send you back the money for that policy period, sure, but that's usually going to be peanuts compared to what you're going to be left paying for out of pocket now. Everything from the damage to the car, possible property damage to other people's stuff, liability for bodily injury damage that you may have caused, all those things you'll have exposure for, and of course your own medical bills, if any. So what you have to be aware of there is not only can you be in trouble for lying, but you can be in trouble for just not updating the information. So keep that in mind. If you have a change, like you get married, you move house, other people move in with you. Of course, if you get a new car, obviously, then those things need to be updated. So do not, for instance, as some people have tried to do, under any circumstances, do something like have an older middle-aged man pretend to be the owner of a car when in fact it's your car. Alright? Most things will be found out, and your coverage is not going to hold up. So I just want you to be aware of that. Those are some ways that you can stay ahead of the curve and not get canceled when the time comes. Alright? So I think more videos to come soon. Thanks for listening. Bye.